right, cool. We are now, there's three of us. We're just waiting for Ami to join. This is the third board meeting of the second mock trial. Eden Chief Delegates is the new, I think, semi-official term for this final round of members who make it in the Eden election. So we're just going to get straight into Felix is on the top of a mountain in Colorado or somewhere. So we'll do his first here. So that way he can go back to his mountain enjoyment. And so Felix, yeah, the last notes we had from you, you were looking to set up some Zoom calls with those interested about joining or at least participating in this project. And then you're going to try to get them sorted on an EOS wallet and then kick off some content. So if you want to go ahead with your update, I'll take some notes here.
Okay, yeah. So I've actually kind of switched up the original idea of trying to get creators to make videos about EOS. So with the whole idea of paying for a meal with EOS, what I've realized is a lot of these creators aren't even familiar with cryptocurrencies in general. So I do think it is a pretty hard challenge to do in the first place, let alone having to get these creators to go around trying to convince someone to pay in a cryptocurrency that they don't even know about. So my idea now is I've updated the Creator Now sponsorship to be, we're going to be doing like a Creator Now Eden styled election to vote on a idea that so every week in Creator Now, everyone's kind of sharing ideas of like what they want to do for their videos. So I thought it would be cool to vote on an idea to fund them for $100. So like, how would they use $100 to fund their video? And yeah, I think it'd be cool to incorporate the Creator Now community with the Eden style election process. And so that will get them more interested, hopefully, and more curious about EOS and Eden by actually going through this process, because it is a pretty cool process. It encourages like engagement and interaction within the community, and then everyone will be bouncing off ideas. And so my idea or my plan is whoever ends up winning, I will be sending them the amount $100 in the EOS, and I'm going to work with them to try to help them figure out how to convert that to their currency or however they choose to use it. But ideally, they're going to win it because they're going to have the best idea of how they would utilize $100. But what that will do is it will get the creator onboarded with an EOS account, and then they will get actually they'll get more familiar with actually using a cryptocurrency, and it being EOS, and then setting up a cryptocurrency exchange, and just getting familiar with that process. And then my hopes is that gets them a little bit more curious, and they start to learn a little bit more, I guess, organically, so that maybe later on, if the Creator Now community likes this and accepts this, the original idea of sponsoring videos with a challenge of paying for stuff with using EOS could be something that will be a little bit more easier, and I guess it won't be that much. It'll be a little bit of an easier challenge because they'll be more familiar with EOS, and so it'll be easier for them to pitch that to others when they're going to other people to try to get them to pay for whatever in exchange for EOS. So
Sweet. I think it's a great pivot. I saw your video that you did to sort of explain it. All comfortable in your bed. I especially like the line about making your bed. Everyone should do that every day. It's straight out of Jordan Peterson. So yeah, man, I think that sounds like a great way to do it. And then holding an Eden style election would be super interesting, even if you can just get enough to break into a couple rooms. Might make for some good content afterwards too.
Yeah, and I was thinking maybe possibly too, we could do like a bonus for anyone who wants to cover and do their own coverage of this event that we held. So we will see how it is. It's scheduled for tomorrow at 7 p.m. Central Time. And so I posted the event, and we have right now 15 people who have either said that they are interested or plan on going. And so I'll be reaching out to the manager of Creator Now and see if I can get that posted in announcements tomorrow. So then we'll, hopefully get enough. I'm hoping to at least get 16 people in. So then we'll break up into 4. The first round will be 4 rooms of 4 people, and then just have a second round for the final. But yeah, we'll see. I think it'll be cool because I spent last week in one of these Zoom calls with these Creator Now creators, and yeah, everyone the community is pretty strong in there. So I think this is a great way to build community as well. But also, I was talking to Joshua last week. We had a call, and he gave me really the idea I like of thinking of Eden as like a way to introduce or create DAOs. And so possibly that's something that we do here on Creator Now if the team really likes it moving forward in the future. But we're just getting started with this, so we'll see how it goes.
Okay, perfect, man. That's a great update. And we'll leave it at that. So next week, hopefully we'll hear about the success of this another mock. It might be the first mock trial election of sorts outside of these Eden processes themselves. So that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, be cool. Yeah, that's another thing Dan kind of suggested. Winners could possibly host their own election. So in a way, this is kind of doing that. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm excited to see how the turnout ends up and the feedback from the community.
Right on, buddy. Keep us posted. Good luck. Hopefully, I guess your move went okay, even though you've gone to the other side of the world, well, side of the country now.
Yeah, I just got there, got my stuff there, and then packed just what I needed for this trip. But yeah, I'll be in Houston next week, and so hopefully I'll be able to, I'll be on for the full call, and then with better updates, and yeah, we'll see what happens.
No, this is great. Perfect, man. Thanks for joining us. Your background view looks beauty. Enjoy.
I appreciate it.
All right, Mr. Josh, do you want to hit me up with your update?
So first with the EOS support stuff, the logo's finished. These just like things going on behind the scenes. The website is almost ready, like minimum viable landing page. And so part of what we're waiting on to kind of launch the service is having the website. So that's primarily where people are going to find like the intercom stuff, which is a big part of how the support is going to be delivered. And Calendly is what's going to be used for booking appointments. The volunteers who have been stepping up for this are working on creating the beginnings of a knowledge base. So that's going to have an FAQ, frequently asked questions, and popular topics related to EOS. It's going to start off also minimum viable, and then it's going to get expanded, and we're looking to leverage all the existing stuff that's already out there, but just, a new iteration of integrating and putting all that stuff in one place. And, shout out and thanks to the small team of volunteers that's organized around this. We also are trying to get the Tippet bot that Mark Stair has created. We want to get that installed in all of the Telegram groups that we can. So if anybody is assisting anyone in any of these Telegram groups, it's easy for them to tip that person. And so hopefully by next week, that's something that will be done if it's possible, if it's easy enough to do.
Is it tip it, right?
Yeah.
TIPIT. Okay.
Yep.
Sweet. Good. And that's also set up. Is that going to be set up separately with EOS support, or will that just be through the Telegram channels?
Well, I mean, maybe some of the stuff Mark has done because the idea here is to build an actual platform with smart contracts and everything. That like a little bit further down the road. It's already, the talks of how to go about developing it are already happening, and the developers are being prepared. I don't think we've recruited anyone for the smart contract part yet, but for some of the same people doing the website will be able to, develop a full-blown support, EOS support platform or portal. And so for now, the idea is let's leverage something that's already been created, and let's, to get this thing going, let's at least give people the option to make donations. So I don't know if, I think maybe there needs to be a conversation with Mark there. He's probably pretty busy behind the scenes, but hopefully next week we'll have an update. Like maybe it'll be added to the Telegram groups, and maybe there's some possibility to take what he's done and work with him and kind of go to the next level with it. The whole point is just allowing people to give donations if they want, for people helping them. I guess it might also mention, it emerged this week that Michael, I forget his my apologies, Michael, but we know him mostly as EOS USA. I guess he's already been building some kind of a service that's a little more privatized, and hopefully we'll have a conversation in the next week between some of us to kind of figure out where some overlap is and just get everyone's feedback and be able to collaborate. So like kind of combining efforts if we can, and trying to, trying to help, if the two initiatives don't become one, trying to help them both become successful. Did you see some of that stuff in the chat?
I didn't read it all. So I didn't. So what's he making then? It's like another version of like essentially an EOS support, but privatized. Is that?
Yeah, it's more like helping companies, providing a service to companies, like building out knowledge bases and doing translation, and it's a different approach, but I think there's some possible collaboration opportunity there. We should at least just chat about it. So I think that meeting is going to happen in the next week or so. And then the only other thing I would probably mention for EOS support is there is we're working on a process for vetting new representatives. Because we're just inventing this out of thin air, so a lot of processes and protocols have to be created. That's not everything, but I feel like that's probably enough for today.
Okay, awesome. Yes, you are inventing this out of thin air, which.
And then speaking of inventing things out of thin air, I do want to mention on the framework, as far as like contributing to the goals, there has been. So some people have joined Slack. We did have a little issue with the Slack link. Basically, that we needed to have a special invitation link so people could join. So we did figure that out and made that update. And the Slack there's a lot of Slack channels configured to match the documentation that we've put out. The documentation has been slightly updated and adjusted in the last week. Some conversations are starting to happen there rather than in Telegram.
Yep, starting to get used, starting to get populated. Yep. I feel like people aren't using Slack, like we're kind of using it like Telegram. It still ends up being this stream, and we got to work on the side, right? Is that accurate?
Yeah, well, I mean, it is in a lot of ways. It is like Telegram. Just the only difference is there are channels to organize conversation. So it's kind of like one big Telegram group with lots of little channels inside of it. So we'll see what happens. We have to work toward getting more adoption of that. I've also started building, I've started creating a ClickUp for EdenOnEOS. So ClickUp.com is another app that it's already integrated with the Slack, and we're basically just trying to replicate the framework that we've developed that's also been implemented in Slack. We want to expand that into ClickUp. So the idea is that as people start to get acclimated to using Slack to conversate and interact with each other, converse and interact with each other, then we will start to go from less talking and more doing, which is where ClickUp may come into the mix. And then finally, Chris and I were just kind of discussing this a little bit more before we started the recording. So we have these offices, like Chief Marketing Office, for example, CMO. And we're thinking maybe not this week, but next week, I'd like to help facilitate and initiate office hours, open office hours, and not exactly sure the frequency. Like if we really went hardcore, it would be maybe every morning during the week, Monday through Friday. So we'd have one that corresponds with every one of these office hours. And still kind of figuring out what the format would be. It sort of depends on what initiatives people are already kind of leading out on and what new members are curious about and needing help, getting pointed in a certain direction. We may do a little bit of teaching. We may do exercises together. What else? Or we may just do like working meeting format, which maybe isn't office hours per se, but it may just be what we need to do for now.
Yeah, I see it as just being a time, a fixed, deliberate time of day that we commit to being around, available. And I think at the beginning, people could just join, and yeah, it could be working meeting. Like we want to work through something, we want to try to accomplish something. Maybe we could put out a schedule in advance if participation is like that, and maybe we just plan it a week in advance what we want to do. I think for now, we just start up with here. We're going to be online. Here's a Zoom link. Go ahead and join. We can talk about stuff and see where it goes.
And we're thinking the morning to cater to the international community to make sure that we're, including all of them. Yeah, that's basically it. I mean, there's a lot more we could talk about for all these things, but as far as just giving an update, I think that's good.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, that's great. I think we thinking of starting these office hours next week.
Yeah, I would like to start them. I'd like to plan them a little more this week and start them next week. So maybe we could announce them at the end of the week or something.
Well, it'd be good. Maybe we should talk. Well, we could. I mean, it's a live board meeting. We do it now because ideally, when we put this out, there'll be this video, and then most people won't watch this whole video, but they'd at least maybe read through the notes. If we have this sort of in the notes, that might help people for next week to join.
Yeah, so for if you wanted to discuss it right now, I'd like to do for now because we're still getting organized and stuff. I would do Monday through Friday. Let's see, I'm in Central Time. What's the UTC that's the best for the international community? Isn't it like
9 a.m. or
1300
UTC was the number that was suggested by Eve, who has a lot of experience with that. So
yeah, so that's the time that I would choose. And if we're not getting much participation, or just if we can adjust this in flight, but basically we would do 5 of these a week, and it would just be like the title is open office hours. So just jump on.
Okay. Well, maybe what I'll do is in these notes, I'll create a Zoom link that can just be the same one that we can just reopen it every time, and I'll post it in the notes here, and then we can just use that. So then we can just we don't have to worry. People don't have to look for a new link every day or something.
Okay. Yeah. If you need some help configuring that, let me know. And again, still kind of to be decided, but my idea was that we would basically each day of the week would be one of the 5 super circles that we have. So like one of the days would be CMO, and another one would be COO.
Yeah. I think that'd be an ideal way to do it for now. I'm thinking we just leave it wide open.
Okay.
And see, because there may be people might have a lot of CMO stuff, and then we don't want to exclude people from, say, calling in on a Thursday when CMO was on the Tuesday or something.
Right.
But maybe just generally talk. It's about these offices.
Yeah. If it's not going to be themed, then maybe I wouldn't do it 5 days a week.
True.
Well,
yeah.
But
you want to try it next week?
I would like to initiate something. I think it would be helpful.
So yeah, let's try it next week. We can both be here. Like we can just both be doing separate work. We'll just have the Zoom open, and it's not like we have to talk the whole time. Although we could get along quite well.
Okay. Well, we got that one hammered out.
Okay, sweet.
Monday to Friday, for the Zoom link if you're watching the recording.
That's right. Yeah, and I'll put a Zoom link. Insert Zoom link here. So when I put these notes out, that will be there. Okay, awesome. Anything else?
On my side, I think that's basically it as far as the main updates I want to disclose. I'm still working to follow up with other people and just kind of learn. I've made some kind of pledges, and just in general, I want to move things forward. Getting into the next election in September, tentatively is when that's going to happen. So I just want to see what I can do to be prepared for that, as well as help other people prepare for that. But I don't necessarily have a bullet list of updates for that this week.
Yeah, we haven't really got into the election refining the intro to an election piece. Well, if the next election is an official one, that should be a whole lot easier because it's just Eden members, so we know exactly who to target communication to. We have a dedicated channel to it, so really that should be a lot easier to get people to participate.
And we'll have the software, which is going to be exciting.
Software, yeah. I wonder if they're going to want to, how they're going to want to test it. Can we just test it? Do it live without the swear word. You obviously know the reference. That was pretty.
Yeah.
Cool. And there might be official, like, actual funding, like substantial funding for that election. I think that's all sort of looking to come together around the same time. That alone will drive a huge bump in membership, right? That'd be.
Yeah, that's another thing I hope these office hours help with is let's get some of these bigger projects out on the table, refined, help raise awareness for them. And, the third election, what do they say? Like third time is a charm kind of thing. I think this one's going to be pretty awesome.
That's the saying. Exactly. That's a good point, though. To work through bigger project proposals. Good use of that time. Okay, my updates. I was just looking to see what I said I was going to do. And yeah, all right. So for me, I won't make notes here while I talk. I had my first BP interview today with Edgar from EOS Costa Rica. I think it went quite well. Short, 15 minutes. I mean, it's short and sweet. Covers some basic points, and so I will be post-producing that today, tomorrow morning. Have that out tomorrow, and then use that as like, hey, other BPs, here's what I'd like to do for you, and then start really rolling through these quick and see if I can become like a well-oiled interviewing / post-production and putting up video machine. That's the plan. And then, once I go through a few more of those, then work on presenting the data in a central location, and then ideally still trying to hit the target of starting this proxy up in 2 to 3 weeks. Still the goal.
Perfect. First one in the hopper.
Yeah, it went good. It was easy. Yeah, Edgar's great. And so the guy, they have never been paid as a BP. They've never reached a position of pay, of any pay for the work they've done. And they've done a lot of stuff.
That's incredible.
It goes to show the dedication they have and how our community needs to come together to start to recognize what these completely underappreciated BPs are doing and not receiving the vote. So, hopefully we get that.
So if the whales are listening,
the whales had ears. Yeah. Well, hey man, that's the goal, right? The goal is to just be loud about the great things that these BPs are doing. And it's not about shaming anybody. It's not about pointing any negative fingers. It's just about highlighting the good. And then hopefully that is enough to encourage even Block 1, for example, like why, they've got 30 votes. They're not even using all of them. Still waiting for their revised metrics for ranking BPs to then vote for them. That was supposed to be 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago. So that's supposed to be here anytime now. And BPs like EOS Costa Rica could really benefit, and I think are well deserved of the amount of stuff they've done is awesome. They've got like a blood bank thing on EOS software, essentially EOS.io. They've got the EOS rate tool that they did, a ton of Spanish focused stuff, Spanish centric, with all translated with developer tools. And so, they did a whole vaccine passport tracking thing, which regardless of your opinions of any of that, it's still a great use of blockchain technology being written on EOS.io. So, and EOS for that matter. So yeah, these guys deserve way more recognition within the community and payment, via at least VPay. If they're not going to be in the top 21 and actually make blocks, we can at least get them into a paid position as standby.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So that's it. Ami was around. He's not now. He's probably busy coding. I expect he's busy. It's later in the evening in Israel, and he is probably tapping away. Just has everything turned off so he can focus like an animal.
Yeah, that's actually really good. So we'll get an update from Ami and probably include that if we can in the forum post for this week.
Yep.
And basically, I mean, what you just said there kind of sums it up. He's working on what he said he was going to do.
Yeah.
So hopefully we get some specifics from him next week. The only reason he's not here is because we had a little confusion about the meeting time. But we'll probably all be here next week for that.
Time zones. We did induct another person today. It hasn't gone through the process yet, but there's a few more inductions coming this week. I've been asked by a few people to help witness. So that's good. Numbers will keep slowly climbing. The guy today, Jay, great dude, a lawyer, has a lot of great ideas. He's willing to help. I mean, this is how great is that we have a lawyer in the Eden fold who's willing to provide some advice, right? Like, obviously he's not going to do it. I mean, he has a job, he needs to get paid to be a lawyer, but he can certainly give some advice to folks. And it sounds like that's, he's willing to sort of help out. So another great member of the team, slowly.
Yeah, that's terrific.
Building up the ranks.
Yeah, I think we'll see a big boost in inductions going into the next election. There's a lot of people, like for myself personally, there's many people in my personal network that I'm just taking my time, making sure that they're absorbing more equal animals, and it's not like a lot of pressure. We're still getting our footing, to be honest. I don't want to embarrass myself in some cases because you only get one chance to make a first impression normally. And so we're still, as we're getting organized here, part of the job is to kind of clean up the perception of EOS and EdenOnEOS. There is already kind of a perception, and until recently, the perception might be like a little bit Wild West, unorganized, and it still is kind of like that. But we can visibly see that there's some effort and some initiative to try to make things more organized and corral everyone's enthusiasm and interest.
Yeah.
It's still a very early stage experiment. So I suspect there's other members who are doing similar things. They're just not in a hurry to thrust people into it. They want them to kind of like observe and understand what's going on. And anyway, but the time is coming. Our first real election is coming up pretty soon. So that's going to be, I think it's going to cause a big push. And if there is any people paying attention, or if they get wind of the larger budget for this one, it will also, how money magnetizes people.
Oh yeah.
But hopefully it magnetizes the right people. So the people that we've got here, they're not necessarily here for the money per se yet, because there hasn't been any big money. But this is the time now to refine the larger projects and what kind of things do need significant funding. If there's no reason for significant funding to be here, then what purpose does it serve to show up?
Yeah. Well, I think maybe that's why we need to have a snapshot. So we'll snapshot, and then that's all that can participate in the next election. You better hurry. Right?
Yeah, that's an interesting idea.
Push people now, because otherwise you get a flood of people who just want the dough, and all the people who are here because they want to actually support and do something for EOS, who are working because the money isn't the only thing, right? We want to do this because we think it's the right thing to do. Which is another, you mentioned like inviting people, like personal friends and stuff. I find it hard because if they're not into crypto, then they're definitely not going to be into, I want to work and support and do things that are good for EOS and the EOS ecosystem. And so it's like this, Eden's mission statement. We talked about this in the past in the members chat. Do we need to define what our mission statement is, or do we have a set of values? And it was like more equal animals. Like, okay, but that's not really a mission statement. And I thought it was more about EOS. This is EdenOnEOS. This is just the Eden community. This is EdenOnEOS community. So it's hard to bring in people who aren't, maybe they're totally down with the Eden piece and like the principles of more equal animals. That doesn't mean they're also down with EOS.
Yeah, I don't have very many invites from people who aren't into crypto, but everyone that I'm inviting who is into crypto isn't as obsessed with EOS, as we are. And maybe that will change. it is, I don't know, either you see it or you don't with EOS in terms of like what it can do, what the capabilities are.
Yeah.
And then the EOS community itself is like a whole different animal, talking about more equal animals. So I do have some pending, like some people that I'm bringing along for invitations who are not necessarily super into crypto. And I do think we're going to need people like that, where EOS might be their first introduction to crypto, but these people are they have a lot of experience in certain fields and they can contribute and kind of fill in the gaps. Like, for example, for sure, we need more developers, and there have been developers that have left the ecosystem over time, but we're not short on developers as much as we are short on like influential content creators or lawyers who can set up legal structures for DAOs and like all these other possibilities that might happen.
Yeah.
So hopefully, I do hope we do get a large influx, especially as we get closer to like 10,000 members of people who EOS is like their first real introduction to crypto. But they bring a lot more to the table than, they're filling a hole in the community, basically. I think that's what we're going to, especially with this first Genesis group, I think we're going to see that type of thing happen, where it's because there's not that many people apparently really engaged in EOS right now. So it's going to be a lot of people from outside the EOS community to bring us across the finish line to max out our capacity of 10,000 members.
Yeah. We've got a ways to go. Yeah, that's right. I think, but that's, again, the whole idea of how big do we need to rush the numbers? And I think we have enough quality people already here that can make plenty good use of inflationary funding, community funding to benefit this ecosystem and to grow the EOS community and the EOS network as a whole. If that's the goal, we already have enough. We don't need, there's the questions of you don't have enough representation and therefore why you deserve community funding. Okay, fine, I can understand that, but just see what comes out of it, because if it's pretty obvious and apparent and well documented and transparent like we're doing here, if the output of this influx of capital is also equally transparent and you can objectively measure or see, at least, like, look, this is what's happening from that funding, even if you don't trust this Eden thing and you don't want to buy in, okay, fine, but if the outcome is still positive, hard to complain, even if you're skeptical of the Eden process. It's the output that will be the part that really is measurable, right?
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning, some of Dan's recent comments. If you didn't get a chance to see it, or even it's worth reviewing, the board did a fireside chat with Dan a couple weeks ago. So if you haven't seen that, it'd be worth checking that out, because Dan really, we debriefed the election, but he shared some really great insights. And one of them was what you mentioned there, Chris, that it's people have their own ideas of like where we're at in the roadmap that's, being planned by Dan and the Clarion team. And it's maybe sometimes not what you think it is. There's actually, we don't need a lot of members, and we're mostly just waiting for the smart contract to finish being built to receive the first influx of funds. And the first election is, we're not going to wait until we even have 1,000 members to do that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But there's other insights besides that in the video, but that's just a couple little teaser takeaways from it.
I will throw the link to that in the notes to this summary as well.
Very good.
So if you've made it this far through a little more topical board meeting, and this isn't very, it's not a typical board meeting. It's just a chat. Now we're basically a podcast. We transitioned to the podcast mode. Right on, man. Okay, well, I think that does it. Thank you for your time, Mr. Seymour.
Likewise.
Till next week.
Thank you. All right, we'll see you guys next week.